I rolled 375,000 miles on the drive home on Friday, and I was in a spot where I could actually look while the digital odometer went to 375,000. It was pretty cool. Welcome back, our co-hosts. Bill Kearns, former executive director of the Berkeley County Health Department, U.S. Marine Corps. Bill, good morning.
Good morning. Rob, you're always full of useful information.
Yeah, full of something, yeah.
Something.
Also, Maria Lawrenson is here as well. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning. My car turned over to 390 miles this week.
Well, you only have 374,610 to go to catch up to me.
I know. That's right.
Keep it rolling.
I will.
Rolling. Our guest in this segment is Dale Lee, president of the West Virginia Education Association. Dale, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you all? And I don't even know how to come in to this conversation with that. This is my fourth car, and it's a little over 2 years old, and it's 85,000. So
85. You're rolling. You're going
rolling.
up and down some hills.
You're going all through the hills and hollers of West Virginia, Dale.
I've driven more than 500,000 miles as president. So
when is your last day as president? Do you know the date yet?
Well, if legislative action keeps going like that, maybe tomorrow.
I think I understand where you're coming from there.
We will have the merger vote March 29th, so 17 days away. Then there'll be a transition governance council to get the organization running and going through their first convention, which will be in the spring of 2027. And the new officers will take over office July 1 of 2027. So I imagine my last day will be right after the convention in the spring. They can talk me into helping out a little bit until June 30th, but I'm ready to go home.
You talking about June 30th, 2025 or 2027?
2027.
You got 2 years.
Yeah. Oh man,
I'm still around for a little while longer.
That works because I know your number.
Oh, good.
I know how to get in touch with you.
There's a lot of people that have my number.
Yeah, man.
In a different way.
So when they do the vote, is that a simple majority vote that'll determine whether the merger goes through, Dale?
Yeah. Both organizations will vote at the same time. We're both meeting at the Embassy Suites. We'll be in one room, and they'll be in another room, and we will vote at the same time. And assuming the vote is positive, which I predicted it will be, the new education, which will actually be named Education West Virginia. We've settled that. We'll have their first convention after lunch that day, and we'll crack the bottles of ginger ale and champagne and celebrate.
And when teachers pay dues to that organization, as those filter up to national, do they get split between the AFT and the NEA?
They'll actually be members of both the AFT National and the NEA National, and there's the Nationals have a formula that you use to determine how the dues money goes to the National.
So, Dale, this is Bill. Can you talk a little bit about the advantages of the merger and proposed?
Well, there are so many people taking shots at public education. And even if you look at what's going on in this legislative session, they're concentrating on advancing the Hope Scholarship and the private schools and the homeschooling and everything. There's not a lot of dollars going into public education in this legislative session. There's no mention of to this point, PEIA, no mention of pay raises for the employees, even though we have 1,500 vacancies across the state. So this gives an opportunity, one, to form a united front so that boards and legislators can't play one organization against another. And secondly, it's just time to quit fighting each other and really focus on what we can do for the students of West Virginia and for the educators of West Virginia.
Dale, this is Maria. Is this 1,500 vacancies, is that an all-time high, would you say?
For teachers, you're talking about certified
Is
teachers?
it teachers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not an all-time high. Last year there were 1,704, I believe, something like that. But if you think about, we continue to lose positions because of the funding formula, the loss of student enrollment. It's to lose all those positions and still have that many vacancies across the state. It is a very alarming rate. And just people are just leaving the profession. I mean, when some of the bills that are moving hit, more and more people are going to leave, like Senate Bill 154 that really puts a burden on the discussions that a student may come to you as a teacher and have, and you have to do a lot of reporting. And what's alarming in the bill is if the parent wants it investigated, it's investigated. If they see that there's no wrongdoing, then the parent can appeal it to the school board. And the teacher, the educator, has really no recourse of anything like that. So that passed the Senate. It's over in the House right now. It hasn't gone on the House House education agenda to this point, but there's a lot of changes that need to be made in that.
What are you seeing about the discipline bill that they're working on, Dale, and what are your thoughts of it?
Well, the discipline bill that passed the Senate, it's a lot like the discipline bill from last year. My concern with it is we're still not addressing the mental and emotional needs of these students. We're still not having a place in the school where you can remove a disruptive child and work on their behavior and their academics at the same time. The solution of this bill is to send them home. Well, we're really not addressing the issue of what's causing these disruptions and this anger.
Do you at least favor some movement in terms of dealing with classroom disruptors? Oh,
I believe that we have to deal with them. We have to get them removed from the classroom. You can't let one child disrupt the learning process for 20 kids. So I believe you have to do something with them, but we have to come up with a solution on how to address why that child is being disrupted while they're acting out, and work on those issues too.
The governor, when he took office, talked about a few structural issues with the budget, one of which was created by insurance premiums for PEIA. Subsequently, he has submitted a balanced budget, so there's been at least some answers on his part as to how to fund these things. What are you hearing in regards to the future of PEIA? Some have said that it needs to be privatized. The state needs to get out of that business entirely.
Well, there have been several bills to privatize it or to disband PEIA that are gaining no traction at all, which is good. If we privatize, and really, if you think about it, PEIA is quasi-privatized anyway, because the health care plan, the prescription drugs are all bid out to companies and come in. What PEIA does is has West Virginians monitor and administer the plan. In the PEIA, the administrative cost is 7.2%, I think, which means that 92% of the funding goes into the plan. Or in the private market, it's more like an 80-20 split. So in the long run, it would cost the employees and the state, because the state is the employer and has to provide health insurance, or theoretically. I mean, in today's world, who knows anymore? But has to provide the health insurance option for the employees.
And looking at the upcoming premium increases, it's about 14%, isn't it, Dale?
Right.
Were you PEIA at the county level, Bill?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to talk about the federal actions right now with the Department of Education, because there may be some court fights over it as to whether the president has constitutional authority to actually dismantle the Department of Education, or whether it has to be done by Congress. But right now, at least we know this: they're going to be cutting some jobs, and they're looking to funnel this money to states, potentially in block grants of some sort, ultimately, Dale. At the state level, when we interview people about federal requirements, there's a lot of complaining. So I kind of get the feeling that from a lot of folks, there wouldn't be a lot of backlash, people in education, there wouldn't be a lot of backlash to not having those strings attached with federal money. What are your thoughts on what's going on in Washington, D.C. with the Department of Education, and as it funnels down to the state of West Virginia ultimately?
Well, ultimately, a lot of our special ed, Title I, and Title IX funding and everything comes from the federal government. 54% of the schools in West Virginia are Title I schools, which means they're getting additional federal dollars to help with the students. If you just do a block grant to the state and then the block grant to the counties, there's no guarantee that money is going to go to the places that it needs to go for those student advancements and those types of things. We saw that in some instances with the COVID money, that it didn't actually wasn't always spent the way it might have been intended to be spent. So that's a major concern. And constitutionally, I don't know that the president has the right to do that in an executive order. I side with that should be a congressional action, and overstepping the bounds there. But while there are far too many requirements or regulations, so to speak, the funding is an important part in getting it to the students that need it.
Is there any state formula for funding for students with special education needs, or is that 100% strictly at the federal level, Dale?
There is additional state funding for special ed kids too. I don't have that formula in my head, so to speak, but there is some additional funding, but certainly the big bulk of that comes from the federal government.
So changing gears a little bit, Dale, do you feel that the Hope Scholarship is damaging public education beyond a way to recoup?
Well, first of all, let me state, as I always do, that I respect parents' right to educate their child the way they choose, whether it be public school, private school, parochial school, homeschool. I respect their right to do that. And if they're doing it correctly, God bless them. But what we're seeing is that these dollars are being funneled out of public education, even though they say, well, it's not taking money away. When our funding is based on enrollment and we continue to lose enrollment, it is taking money out of public education. In 2026-2027 school year, the Hope Scholarship opens up to every private school, parochial school, homeschool child has the opportunity to apply for it. Right now, the requirement is they would have had to have been in the public schools for 45 days to be eligible. That's going to increase the cost over $300 million. Where's that money going to come from?
I think the issue of, you're going to see more people, it kind of rolls back into some of the beginning comments about the disciplinary issues in schools, that you're going to see more parents electing to do, if they're able to do the homeschooling, private schools, and thinking that they're going to have their children removed from that potential disciplinary issues within the classroom. Because as you said, if one student's acting up and 20 are suffering because they're not receiving. I mean, it's difficult for the children anyway, and when they're seeing that happening in the classroom, the next reaction is going to be for that parent to say, I'm going to homeschool my child because I don't want them exposed to that.
And what concerns me with that is many of these private schools and parochial schools won't accept special needs children. So that's an alarming fact. They don't have the same accountability that our public schools have. There's no accountability through assessments and everything like that. Even the homeschool children have a lot less accountability. And there are bills up there now that even want to reduce it more. Why do you put more accountability on our public schools and not really concentrate where that everybody's playing, but basically the same rules? So that concerns me, and I understand parents wanting to get rid of this disruptive child or remove their child where they're getting the better education in their eyes. But again, when you're using the public dollars to pay for that choice, that's where I really have an issue with it.
Dale Lee, our guest here, president of the West Virginia Education Association. Have you heard any discussion at all? You hinted on this earlier in the interview, Dale, on any particular salary increases in West Virginia for public employees and specifically those involved in education.
It wasn't in the governor's budget that he presented, which doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, but it will take action by the House and the Senate to make that happen. And there are several bills that are being introduced or going to be introduced that will address pay. There are some that even addresses locality pay and stuff like that. So there are bills out there. It's just a matter of where the dollars are going to come from. And in my 17 years down here as president, the one thing I've seen from legislatures is that they will find the money to fund anything they make a priority. There's always a way for them to find the money. Well, we better make our students and our children a priority, and you're doing harm when you have 1,500 positions without a certified teacher in them.
Is the WVEA, Dale, still opposed to locality pay?
We've never been opposed to locality pay.
Okay.
What I say over and over is locality pay doesn't have a chance to pass down here. And it doesn't have a chance to pass because you will have 5 counties for it and 50 counties against it. They tried locality pay with state police, and the vote failed. So there are ways that you can work on giving more of your tax dollars back to the county, to the local shares, and using that toward that. But when every time I come to the Eastern Panhandle, I get attacked. But you're against locality pay? No, I'm not. I'm not the one voting on the floor of it. It doesn't pass because the other parts of the state don't see the benefit for their constituents.
Tell me about.
But I believe we have to come up with ways to really help, particularly the Eastern Panhandle and our border counties that border Maryland, Pennsylvania, and the higher Panhandle and Loudoun County and stuff. We have to come up with a way with getting our educators more money that way. I think the way to do that is through local shares and the tax dollars staying back in the county.
This was the local share was increased some years ago, Dale. Can you tell me how that works in regards to the local share and how they get it increased?
Well, we reduced it several years ago from 98% to 90%, and Berkeley and Jefferson, as I recall, used their money, their increase in tax dollars, to give housing allowances and raises for their education employees, which was the way it was intended and should be used, and that any of the bills that I think move, that should be a caveat, is that you have to address the disparity in the salaries and benefits. So it helped those counties. There are other counties where they used it in different ways, repairing roofs, HVAC systems, and things like that. So what I've asked delegates and senators, particularly delegates who are looking at this, is to, when you reduce it and get more of your tax dollars back, put the caveat in that it has to be used for salary and benefits to offset these battles that you have with the contiguous states.
Would the appropriate percentage be somewhere around 80%, do you think, if you were trying to factor it in?
There's a discussion, and we've Delegate Hornby and I have looked at some numbers right now on reducing it to 80%. You may have to go even a little bit lower than that, even to 75%. So we'll just really have to work with the numbers and see.
All right, very good.
But I do know, Delegate Hornby, Delegate Clark, and several of the delegates there are really trying to figure out a way to assist the educators and combat the loss of going across the state line.
Yeah, they've seen it firsthand, without a doubt. I mean, where this station is located, we are 16 miles north of Virginia and 10 miles south of Maryland, and then another 10 minutes from there is Pennsylvania. So it's easy to hop. But there's no question about that.
You can go right across the river, make way more money.
Much more.
Next state over.
Yeah. Have you had an opportunity to meet with the governor yet, Dale?
No, I've requested a meeting with him, and we haven't been able to work that out yet.
Would you, in retrospect, looking back on the 8 years of the Justice Administration, would you regard him as a relatively teacher, public employee-friendly governor?
In a lot of ways, absolutely. There are some things that I wish we could have accomplished under Governor Justice, but we accomplished a lot. And now the debate is, well, did we really kick the can on down the road a little bit longer, like in PEI or things like that? But he did a lot of good things for public education in West Virginia.
And the jury obviously is still out on the new governor, Patrick Morrisey, but since he did not put a raise in his budget, would you regard him as not being particularly friendly toward teachers at this time?
I really wouldn't say that, because even in his State of the State address, he talked about the need to get our salaries competitive with the contiguous states. And he didn't want to just make them competitive. He wanted to be on top. Now it's a matter of putting your priorities in and finding the money to do that.
60 seconds left. Final word is yours, Dale.
Well, it's interesting every day when you go up to the Capitol. There people have different views, different ideas, and the main thing is to respect each other's views and try to work on ways and compromises to do what's best for the citizens and the students of West Virginia. And I'm confident that through the discussions with delegates, and I work mainly in the House, that the people are really trying to do what's best for their constituents and for West Virginia.
Dale, thanks for your time this morning. As always, greatly appreciated.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.